"What's your price?" she asked, her voice as cold as the frost on the champagne glass in my hand. I stood there, stunned, staring at James's mother for the first time. We were at his cousin's engagement party, a sprawling mansion filled with glittering chandeliers and people who sipped drinks like they were born to do it. James had just introduced us. Before I could even say, "Nice to meet you," his phone buzzed. "I have to help my cousin for a second," he whispered, excusing himself. Then his mother leaned in, eyes sharp. "Name your number," she said, calm but deadly serious. "I heard you're a single mom, and my family doesn't marry used goods, so name your price and leave my son." The room felt warmer. Anger and shock flooded my system. I'd heard she was classy, kind, a charitable socialite. But this was nothing like James described. I swallowed the burn in my throat. "I don't have a price," I said, voice shaking. "I'm not for sale." I spun on my heel and walked away. Later, James found me by the garden and asked how it went. I stared at him, still furious. "She wants me gone," I said. "Ask her why she hates single moms." I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying her words, "used goods." The phrase echoed in my head, dragging me into memories I thought I'd buried. I'd grown up feeling like I was always last on someone's list. No parents, no real home. It started in the foster system. It feels strange to say I barely remember my biological mother's face. In every old photograph, her eyes were hidden by shadows or turned away. I was only 4 when she left me at a fire station. A social worker explained I was lucky to be alive, but it never felt lucky. As I grew older, I got bounced around. Family after family took me in, but they usually had their own kids or personal issues. Some meant well. Others did it for the checks. I learned early to keep my head down, to survive. But I also learned to dream, to believe there could be more. Her words brought back that old sting, that feeling of not being wanted. But I wasn't that scared kid anymore. I had fought for everything I have, and I promised myself, no matter how wealthy or powerful James's mother was, she would not break me. At 17, I found out I was pregnant. A surge of panic nearly destroyed me. I remember staring at that test, the 2 pink lines blurring in front of my eyes. My boyfriend at the time vanished the moment he heard. I was left alone, terrified, and convinced my life was over before it even began. The foster home I was in had a strict no babies rule, so I was forced to move. I ended up living in a cramped group home for teen moms. It smelled like disinfectant and tears. Some girls had family who visited. I didn't. But in that bleak place, I found a flicker of hope. My son. He was the reason I pushed on. I got a part-time job at a diner, cleaning tables and washing dishes until past midnight. I saved every tip. I rubbed my growing belly and whispered promises that I would never abandon him the way my mom had abandoned me. Still, I felt eyes on me everywhere I went, judging me, saying I was too young, too naive, yet I refused to quit. That same determination has shaped every choice I made since. My baby arrived on a rainy Tuesday morning. The moment I held him, it felt like lightning struck my heart. Shock, fear, and an overwhelming wave of love. I named him Isaac, meaning laughter, because I needed hope more than anything. Those first months were a blur of sleepless nights and survival. When the group home's day program ended, I had to move out. I found a tiny studio apartment with leaky pipes. The walls were thin enough to hear my neighbors arguing at 2 a.m. Sometimes we'd go without heat, but I was grateful it was ours. I juggled 2 jobs, day shift at a local grocery store and night shift at a 24-hour diner. In between, I studied. I was determined to finish high school and go to college. I dreamed of a stable life for Isaac, a home where he never had to question if someone would throw him out. People laughed at me for trying. "Girl, you're just a statistic," one neighbor said. "You'll never make it." But each sneer only fueled my fire. I wrapped Isaac in a blanket, kissed his forehead, and reminded both of us that we were stronger than we knew. Fast forward a few years, and I was on the path I'd sworn to create. After graduating high school, I enrolled in community college for marketing. Isaac was in preschool. Money was tight. Every bill felt like a mountain, but I pushed on. I remember the day I got my first professional internship at a small advertising agency. The feeling of stepping into that modern office, hearing phones ring, seeing people hustle, it was electric. I worked harder than anyone, determined to absorb every lesson. My boss noticed. She hired me full-time after I got my degree. From there, my career soared. I became a marketing executive by 25, specializing in digital campaigns. I learned to coach small businesses too, helping them refine their brands. Soon, I had multiple streams of income and a decent savings account. Isaac was proud of me, and I was proud of us. We didn't have old money or family connections, but we had grit, and somehow that felt more valuable. So when James's mother called me used goods, it stung. But it also reminded me how far I'd come, and that I wasn't about to let anyone define my worth. I first met James at a parent-teacher conference. Isaac was in 3rd grade, and James was his new homeroom teacher. I remember walking into the classroom, my heart pounding a bit. I was used to teachers criticizing, expecting me to fail. But James smiled so warmly that my worries eased. He stood behind a tiny desk with a motivational poster behind him, something about believing in your dreams. Isaac had been raving about Mr. Carver, how he made learning fun and respected the kids. I saw it in the way James listened. He leaned forward, nodded, and asked questions about Isaac's reading interests. Normally, I tried to keep my guard up. I'd had enough heartbreak. But James was different from the start. After the conference, he joked about the silly hamster the class had as a pet, and I found myself laughing freely. Over the next few weeks, we'd exchange friendly waves, short chats, and eventually phone calls about Isaac's progress. Slowly, those conversations shifted from academics to life. He was single, kind, and had an easy sense of humor. He didn't see me as some burden. He just saw me. One Friday, James asked if I wanted to grab coffee after school. We found a cozy cafe where indie music played softly. We talked about everything. Our childhoods, our fears, our hopes. He said he became a teacher because he remembered being the shy kid in class who never felt seen. He wanted to make sure no child felt invisible. I told him a bit about my background, how I'd grown up in foster care. He didn't flinch or judge. He just listened, eyes kind and focused. It was like he saw all of me, the flaws and scars, and didn't want to fix or pity me. He just respected my journey. A few weeks later, he invited Isaac and me to a local fair. Isaac was thrilled. Funnel cakes, Ferris wheels, games. Watching James with my son was surreal. James helped him toss a basketball into a hoop and cheered like he'd won the NBA Finals. It felt too good to be true, like I was waiting for the catch. But there was no catch. He was real, steady. And every day, I fell a bit more in love with the heart he showed us both. When James proposed, it wasn't flashy. No big crowd, no fireworks, just the 3 of us in our backyard grilling hot dogs. It was Isaac who handed me the ring, hidden in a small box decorated with stickers. The diamond wasn't enormous, but it was perfect, simple, elegant, and full of meaning. James kneeled, looking nervous but hopeful. "I love you," he said. "I love Isaac. I love our small family. Will you marry me?" I tried to speak, but tears blurred my vision. Isaac was bouncing on his toes, big grin on his face, saying, "Say yes, Mom. Say yes." I laughed and nodded through my tears. James slipped the ring onto my finger. We hugged, the 3 of us in a tight circle, laughter and relief washing over us. The future felt bright and possible. For once, I believed in something good coming my way. I called my close friends. Everyone was thrilled. Even Isaac told his classmates, proudly announcing he was getting the best teacher ever as a stepdad. The only lingering question was James's family. He rarely mentioned them. Now I was about to find out why. A week after our engagement, I got a text from an unknown number. 100K. Take it or leave it. No context, no signature. I thought it was a spam message. Then a second text arrived. "If you leave James now, you get the money. Don't test me." My hands shook. I confronted James. He turned pale, immediately knowing who was behind it, his mother. "I'll handle this," he said firmly. He called her, and I only heard his side of the conversation. Quick, angry words, then a frustrated hang-up. But the texts didn't stop. 250K, the next read. "Stop being greedy." Another day, another jump. 500K, that's more than you're worth. Each message crawled under my skin, churning my stomach in anger. Part of me wondered if ignoring them was best, but her relentless tone made it impossible. James tried to block her number, but she found ways. Fake accounts, different phones. She insisted I was a gold digger, said I was trapping James with a child that wasn't his. James stood by me, comforting me, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. Loyalty to his mother was ingrained even when he hated her actions. I remember staring at those texts late at night, rage pulsing through me. Each new offer felt like a slap. She was judging me for being a single mom, yet she knew nothing about my life. She didn't see the nights I spent studying, the hours I spent building my business, the love I poured into Isaac. What hurt most was seeing James struggle. He'd grown up thinking his mother was perfect. She was graceful at parties, donated to charities, smiled in public like a queen. But behind those polished appearances, she was tearing at our relationship with bribes and insults. He tried to call her again, shouting at her to leave me alone. I heard her yelling back over the speakerphone, "You are my son. You will not raise another man's mistake. I won't allow it." I slammed the phone off, hands trembling. I expected James to keep fighting, but he went silent, eyes stormy. "I'm sorry," he finally whispered, pressing his forehead against mine. "I don't know why she's doing this." I sighed, heart heavy. Maybe because she can't control you anymore. Or me, but she can't buy me out. I won't let her. The offers escalated. Random envelopes appeared in my mailbox with typed letters. 10 days to decide? This is your last chance, always ending in a figure that crept higher. My friends urged me to file a harassment claim, but James kept insisting he could fix it. His guilt weighed on him like a chain. "She's my mother," he'd say, running a hand through his hair. "I grew up admiring her. She was all I had after Dad died. But now..." I didn't know how to comfort him. Part of me wanted to say, "Cut her off. Let's be done." But family ties can be tangled. He wasn't just a fiancé. He was also a son who'd believed in a loving mother. Meanwhile, wedding preparations continued. We tried to find joy in picking out invitations, booking a venue, and tasting cakes. But each time my phone buzzed, I froze, half expecting another vile offer. James would squeeze my hand and whisper, "We'll get through this." Yet the tension built like a storm. I could feel something big coming, and I was scared of what his mother would do next. Finally, we got invited to another family event, a birthday party for James's grandmother. James's mother insisted we come with Isaac, claiming it was time to make peace. I was hesitant, but James wanted to believe her. So we agreed, promising ourselves we'd stay calm, no matter what. I should have known it was a trap. She had one more cruel trick to play. The party was grand, of course. Flower arrangements, waitstaff in crisp uniforms, a huge buffet. Isaac and I arrived with James, feeling out of place in the lavish setting. But we tried to be polite. James's grandmother was kind, hugging us and making us feel welcome. James's mother hovered nearby, lips pursed. I could see the tension in her eyes. She barely greeted me, only offering a tight nod. Isaac was on his best behavior, sitting politely at a table and eating his slice of cake. That's when it happened. James's mother leaned down to Isaac, her voice low, but I heard every venomous word. "You're just a reminder of someone else's mistake." My blood ran cold. Isaac's face crumpled in hurt. My body moved before my mind did. My hand collided with her cheek in a hard slap. Time seemed to freeze. I heard gasps from all around. I couldn't believe what I'd done. But I also couldn't regret it. James rushed over, eyes wild. "Did you just hit my mother?" he shouted. The world spun and suddenly I was the villain. I tried to explain, but he cut me off. "Don't you ever lay a hand on Mom, ever." His mother clutched her face, tears welling dramatically. People stared, whispering. A rift tore open between us in that moment. We left in separate cars. Isaac sobbed in the back seat, confused and hurt. I was furious and trembling, replaying his mother's cruel words. Yet James hadn't even asked why I reacted. He saw me as the aggressor. That night, he didn't come home. I felt betrayed. We argued over the phone, each shouting, neither listening. He yelled, "You had no right," and I screamed back. She insulted my child. But the conversation ended in silence. We hung up on each other, hearts broken. 1 week passed with no word from James. My chest felt heavy. I cried more than I wanted to admit. Isaac asked where James was, and I forced a smile, lying that he was busy. Finally, he appeared at my doorstep, disheveled and exhausted. I glared at him. He sighed. "I know what she said," he whispered. "I talked to my grandmother. I'm sorry. I was in shock, but I shouldn't have taken her side." My anger softened, but the hurt lingered. "Isaac heard everything," I said, voice shaking. James nodded, eyes downcast. "I messed up," he admitted, "but I promise I won't ignore it again." We made up, but a scar remained. Isaac was wary. I couldn't blame him. James tried to apologize, taking him out for ice cream and soccer games. Slowly, the tension eased. But we both knew the real issue wasn't resolved. His mother's hatred. Still, we forged on. Our wedding was approaching. I wanted to believe we could have a peaceful ceremony, a new start. Then the final bomb dropped. A black car pulled up outside my office. A well-dressed lawyer stepped out, briefcase in hand. He introduced himself politely and asked to speak privately. Inside a conference room, he opened his case. My client, he began, is prepared to offer you a one-time sum of $1 million to end your engagement with James Carver. In exchange, you will not contact him or his family again. He slid the suitcase across the table. I opened it. Crisp bills stacked neatly, that new money smell. My heart pounded, but my mind felt oddly calm. I realized this was her final play. Show me the money in person, hoping I'd crack. I stared at the suitcase, then looked at the lawyer's hopeful expression. He thought I'd take the bait. He was wrong. I didn't argue or shout. I didn't throw the money back in his face. Instead, I took a deep breath and said, "Wait here." He nodded, probably assuming I was ready to negotiate. I left the conference room, walked down the hall to my office, and grabbed my checkbook. My hands were steady. I could feel a strange sense of power washing over me. This was my chance to show her what I was truly made of. I'd built my career from the ground up, and I wasn't about to be bought out like some cheap accessory. When I returned, the lawyer raised an eyebrow. I calmly filled out a check, $5 million, and signed it. The lawyer's eyes widened. He stammered, "Excuse me?" I slid the check toward him. "Give this to your client," I said, along with one message: take this money and never contact me, my son, or James again. I stood up, gathered my things, and left him gaping at the table. In that moment, I felt an undeniable surge of relief. I was done playing her games. It was time she understood I couldn't be bullied or bribed. Not anymore. That night, I expected an eruption of angry texts from James's mother. But my phone stayed silent. I told James everything. He stared at me, open-mouthed. "You gave her a check for $5 million? You have that kind of money?" I sighed, explaining how my coaching business had grown, plus my executive salary, plus investments I'd made in a couple of successful startups. I never bragged about finances. I didn't want to seem arrogant. But yes, I had more than she realized. James looked torn between shock and something like pride. "And you're okay with losing that kind of money?" he asked quietly. "Just to keep her away?" I shrugged, feeling a strange calm. She wanted to buy me off. Now I'm offering to buy her absence. I'm done with her calling Isaac a mistake, done with her insulting me. If $5 million is what it takes to protect our family, so be it. He wrapped his arms around me, holding me tight. For once, there were no more apologies to be made. We just stood there, understanding that this battle had to end before it poisoned our life together. Whether she took the offer or not, I had taken my stand. Days went by with no word. My anxiety began to build. Had I done the right thing? What if she spun this into some twisted scandal? My heart pounded whenever my phone buzzed. Finally, her acceptance came in the strangest form, a text from her personal number. It read, "You can't keep me from my son. But since you're so desperate to pay your way out, I'll accept. I'm done with this circus. Enjoy your little wedding." My eyes widened. She had actually agreed to the deal. Just like that. I was stunned. A part of me almost hoped she'd tear up the check to prove she wasn't all about money. But when I called the bank to confirm, they told me the check had already been cashed. Every cent gone. I told James. He stared at me in disbelief, then tried calling his mother over and over. She never picked up. Whether it was out of shame, pride, or spite, no one knew. But one thing was clear. She'd chosen the cash and total silence. It felt surreal. After all her offers, all her meddling, she finally walked away for a bigger payout. And I realized with a heavy heart that I might never truly understand her reasons, or her cruelty. That evening, I got a phone call from James's cousin, who was frantic. "Did you really give Auntie $5 million?" she asked. I confirmed it. Then she dropped the bomb. "She's in massive debt. She blew through the family fortune years ago." My heart pounded. So that was the real reason behind all the bribes. She was broke, desperate, and afraid I was just another gold digger. But ironically, she was the one who needed money all along. It gave me a strange sense of closure to know the truth. She wasn't just a snob. She was a woman drowning in secrets, lashing out in fear. I realized that in her twisted way, James's mother probably thought she was protecting him from a future of financial strain. She never guessed I could be the one saving her. Well, she got her money. Now she had to keep up her end of the deal, staying out of our lives. Early the next morning, James decided he couldn't let it go. He drove to his mother's house alone, determined to make her refund the $5 million. He pounded on the door until she finally appeared. Even then, she wouldn't meet his eyes. "I'm not giving a cent back," she snapped. "Ask your little whore where she got that kind of money to throw around." James's face went from anger to pure shock. "Do you even hear yourself, Mom? You tried to pay her off, but she beat you at your own game. And now you're just doubling down?" He shook his head, disgusted. "If you don't return that money, don't even bother coming to the wedding. I'm done." She shrugged. "I never planned to attend. That circus isn't my scene." Heartbroken, he told her that if she truly planned to stay away, she should honor the full terms. Him out of her life, too. Her eyes narrowed. "You wouldn't dare." But he had made his choice. He turned on his heel and walked away, refusing to look back. Wedding day dawned bright and clear. I woke with a strange mix of excitement and sorrow. Even though she'd caused so much pain, part of me wished James's mother could have been there in a loving way, watching her son marry the woman he adored. Instead, she kept her distance. That morning, James tried one last time to call her. I overheard him softly pleading, "Mom, if you give back the money, we can work something out. We can be a family." Her voice was trembling but firm. "I need it," she admitted. "Your father left me with more debts than you can imagine. This will at least clear the estate's debt and make sure you don't inherit our mess." James's voice cracked. "Not like this, Mom. I never asked you to do any of this." Silence. Then he hung up. He turned to me, eyes filled with regret. "She's set in her ways," he said. "She'd rather lose me than lose the money." My heart ached. But we both knew there was no saving someone who didn't want to be saved. It was our wedding day, and we had to choose our peace over her chaos. Before the ceremony, I caught a glimpse of Isaac in his little suit. He looked so grown up, all serious and proud. He came over, fiddling with the cuffs. "You look pretty, Mom," he said, eyes shining. I knelt to straighten his tie. "And you look very handsome. Ready to walk me down the aisle?" He nodded, trying to appear brave. "I'm ready." Moments later, we stood at the entry of the garden where our ceremony would take place. Friends and colleagues filled the chairs. A gentle breeze ruffled the white flowers lining the aisle. Soft music played, and I felt a sudden rush of gratitude. Despite everything, I had people who cared about me. I had love. Isaac took my arm, and we began walking. My breath caught when I saw James at the altar, tears already in his eyes. We locked gazes. I could almost feel the weight of our shared journey, mine, Isaac's, and James's, coming to a crescendo in this moment. In the back of my mind, I wondered if his mother was somewhere, cursing us or feeling regret. But I let that thought go. Today was about choosing each other, choosing a new beginning. The ceremony was quick and simple, but it felt like magic. James's voice trembled as he said his vows. He promised to love me and Isaac, to be the rock we both needed. I could barely speak through the tears, but I managed to vow my loyalty, my commitment, and my gratitude for the way he loved us. People clapped and cheered as the officiant pronounced us husband and wife. I laughed as James kissed me, Isaac shouting, "Woohoo!" with all the energy of a kid at a carnival. A moment of pure bliss. Afterwards, we had a small reception under a massive oak tree. Friends congratulated us, teased James about messing up his lines. My best friend joked that we needed to buy a new fridge for all the wedding gifts. We danced, we ate cake, and for a few hours, the drama with his mother faded into the background. James and I shared our first dance as husband and wife, Isaac trying to butt in with silly moves. We laughed, spinning him around. The day was far from perfect, but it was real, and it belonged to us. A few months later, life found a new rhythm. James continued teaching at his elementary school, and I poured myself into my marketing firm and coaching clients. Isaac was thriving. He joined the basketball team and still aced his spelling tests. One quiet night, I looked over old photos, pictures from my foster care days, me pregnant at 17, Isaac's baby pictures. Then our engagement party, James's proposal, and finally, the wedding shots. Each image told a story of resilience and love. I thought about how James's mother had tried to buy me out, how she refused to see beyond my past. Yet ironically, her attempt only led to me asserting my worth even more. We hadn't heard from her since the wedding. No holiday cards, no phone calls. She vanished, presumably to nurse her wounded pride and manage her debts. Was our family perfect? No. But we built it piece by piece, choosing each other through every hardship. I felt a rare peace settle inside me. My son was safe, my husband was supportive, and I was finally free from that nagging fear of being not good enough. I had chosen my life, and it chose me back. Tonight, Isaac fell asleep on the couch, and James and I quietly carried him to his room. After tucking him in, we stood there, just watching his gentle breathing. James put an arm around my waist. "That's our boy," he whispered. I kissed his temple, remembering every doubt, every struggle that had led us here. I thought of his mother's sneer, the coldness in her eyes, and the stack of bills she'd used as a weapon. She thought I came for the money, that I wanted a piece of their empire. But she never understood me, or James. She never saw the love that couldn't be priced. She thought she was protecting him from my so-called baggage. In truth, she was the one weighed down by her own secrets. I glanced around our cozy home, the messy shoes by the door, Isaac's drawings on the fridge, the ring on my finger. Everything we had was earned, not inherited. Everything was real. James squeezed my hand. I took a breath and let all the bitterness go. The final thought formed in my mind, clear and certain. She thought I came for the money. But what I really came for was peace. And now I have it.